Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be making two cards and we are going to be using the swatched set. I have made another card with this recently. I'll link that at the end. And then also the Crafty Friends sentiments. So the first technique that we are going to do is going to be helping to use up our scraps. So I've just pulled out like a rainbow of colors to start cutting my colored pencils out of. The colored pencil swatch has like the full colored pencil and then the addition of the tip. For my purposes, I'm not going to be adding like the addition of realism for the wood part because I think the card stands on its own without it. But for the second card, I will show you how to get that look if you're interested in it. So I'm going to also be, for the second card, I'm going to be doing a mix of all of them, like the paint tubes and the alcohol markers. So for the alcohol markers, I'm cutting that out of gray. And then for the paint tubes, I'm cutting that out of white. I will show you how I shade all of these things. And the main technique that we are going to be using is the same for all of them. And it is super easy. So here I've cut everything down to smaller pieces so that I can cut more of them at the same time. Also, this is a great way if you're trying to use up your scraps like I am. You don't have to have perfect cuts every time. And what I mean by that is you can use smaller pieces and still make it work depending upon what kind of design you're doing. So for my paint tubes, I'm doing all of those in white. So I'm just going to keep cutting those out. And then the same thing with the alcohol markers or I cut out the tips from different colors. Here is how you're going to get that more realistic look if you want it. I'm not going to use this until the second card. But I cut it out of craft cardstock, just that nib section. And then I'm just going to use my detail scissors these are from Spellbinders. And I'm just going to follow that kind of triangle pattern. So I cut the tip out and then I followed the triangle pattern, for like how it would be sharpened. And I cut that out of craft. Now, again, I'm not going to use that for the first card that we're doing, but I will use it for the second, mostly because I only have two colored pencils on the second. And so I only had to cut out two of those. So anywho, and then for the tips of the markers, you don't need to necessarily do any shading really on any of these. You can just cut out the different colors and see how that they would work together. But the technique that I'm going to show you is going to make it really easy to give them a ton of dimension. So I wanted to do a rainbow. Nobody's surprised here if you've been to my channel before. I wanted to do a rainbow of colored pencils. And so I just went in to those scrap sheets and just kept cutting them. Now here you can see this yellow one. I can't cut a full colored pencil. That's fine. I'm going to cut what I can and then move on to the next. Same thing here with the orange one. I angle it in a way that's going to allow me to cut as much as I can. It's not the full colored pencil, but I don't care. And so I just went through all of the colors. I did not cut the red initially, but you'll see that at the end because I had to add it so that I could fit the whole card. So let's talk about the technique. So I am going to use 3 different colors for each one. But you can use what you have. You can use this by like layering up other colors. So for the nib, I'm just outlining that bottom portion with the darkest color and then just kind of flicking it up. Here is the super easy technique that you can use to add dimension to these and really anything else that has like a center focal point. I previously did a video, this was years ago, with a nail polish set that Honeybee had. But basically, you're just going to do stripes. And so here I'm following the stripes that are embossed into my colored pencil. And then I'm putting down my darkest color. I'm going over that with my mid-tone. And then I'm going back over everything with my lightest color, each time kind of extending that out. For the pencil shaving part of it, I'm using a couple of different browns, and this is why they are different, because my color of paper is different. So when you're using warmer colors, a red, an orange, a pink, you want to have a cooler brown. And when you're using cooler colors, a blue, a purple, a green, you want to use a warmer brown. And this will set you more along the path of them actually looking brown. Now, I will be honest with you, the pink, the red, and the teal are off from the other ones, but that actually doesn't even bother me. If it bothers you, you can go back to that initial trick we talked about where you cut them out of a different color paper, or you can cut them out of white and color them, all together. This technique would still work just without the colored paper. The colored paper just makes it easier, not only to achieve the color that we want, but it makes it easier because sometimes we can have kind of that like, blank paper syndrome where we get scared of coloring on the white and we're not really sure where to start. So that can help with that. Here I wanted my my browns to be a little bit darker, so at least they would kind of be in the same realm as the other ones. So I did go in and make them a little bit darker, but then every single time I'm following the same strategy, taking that dark color, I'm following those stripes, I'm adding a stripe to the outer edge of the pencil and then along where it is sharpened. Then I'll go in with my mid-tone, I will go over those same areas and then kind of extend it out. Now we're not really doing a ton of work here, but you can see as they're like lining up that we are adding quite a bit of dimension. And so when you have an object, whatever that object may be, that you can use straight lines with, so maybe that's going to be a cup or a square or whatever the object might be. This is a great technique for that because it helps build your confidence in building that dimension and using those kind of darker colors without you having to really kind of be out there on a limb with what you're learning. So here is that teal, and you can see here when I put that same brown on there, it gets super dark and it's very cool looking. It almost looks green. And that's because the brown that I picked just was not warm enough. So you'll see that I kind of go back over it. I'll revisit the one on the pink as well. Just trying to get it as close to brown as I can. But ultimately, I think that the feel of the card, like a fun, brightly colored card from one card maker to another or one crafter to another, I still get that same vibe. And again, that's what I just told you here is I'm going back with a different brown and trying to see if I can build that up to be brown. So I did these, when did I do these? I did these several weeks ago, and this particular set is supposed to be for swatching. So like whether that's your inks or your cardstocks or your pens, pencils, whatever. But I loved them so much. I loved them so much. And also I like, extending out the things that I have and getting more bang for my buck and all of that, being the cheap chicken that I am. So I like being able to extend them out to use them on the cards. So here is that teal. Why did I think that was? I guess we were doing the blue one before. I thought we were doing the teal, but you'll see how really dark this one is. It's really dark. But again, not overly worried about that. This one you can do, this card structure, you can do with any of these. You could make them all alcohol markers. You could make them all tubes of paint, whether that's acrylic or watercolor, whatever you're into. I like the colored pencils the best because I liked having that the separation between the barrel and the tip. So here I have them all laid out, and this is where I'm showing you, you could just pop that on and it would make quite a bit of a difference. But like I said, I'm not going to do that. So here is the red one that I didn't know that I needed. So we are going to color this one as well. I know that this video is a lot of repetition, but sometimes it helps to just do it multiple times, because how many colored pencils did we color here? We colored a red, a pink, orange, yellow, green, teal, blue, purple. So we've already practiced this 8 times, which is great because practice doesn't make perfect, but practice does make progress. And all of us here, my red was not dark enough. So I had to go back in and just add in my darker color again. And that's totally okay. Sometimes it just bleaches it out for the lighter colors, and you got to add it back in. No big deal. So again, adding that extra brown here is where I'm lining them up. And where that whole you don't need the whole pencil thing kind of comes in, I'm positioning all of these so that the hole punch for what you would use for the swatch is hanging off the edge, but I'm varying the heights so that it makes it more interesting. Like, they aren't all perfect in a row. Plus, if you try to make something perfect in a row like that, you're more likely to have a misstep. Whereas if you just kind of embrace that they're meant to be a little bit different from each other, you don't have the stress of that perfection. And honestly, they don't need to be lined up. They look pretty just next to each other. So I used the, what do we call them? Guys, why can't I ever remember this? Great greetings is what they're called, crafting. And so I cut the shadow out of black and the word out of white. And then I'm going to pair that with a sentiment from the Crafty Friends. And then here I am just starting at the top with the red and working my way down. Now you will probably notice that when we get to the bottom, there is a little bit of a gap. I am not worried about that because my intention is to trim it down so that I can put it on a black card base. So totally not stressing about that. But here, like even this little yellow one that we used up our scraps with, fits on there really nicely, and everything looks like it goes exactly together. Like, it's intentional. So here is where I'm going to put that handmade. And then for the Crafty Friend sentiment, which is hands down one of my favorite sentiment sets. I know you guys have heard me say that in a lot of videos recently, but I'm not kidding. I love it. I think it's so fun. But so I paired it with it. It says handmade, and then it says there was swearing involved. Because if you know me in real life, then you know that that is true. I even have a t-shirt that says I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. Because sometimes the situation just calls for it. So here I am going to use my tweezers and my glue to put those down. Everything lines up really nicely, really easily. And you could even like split this. So you could put the handmade on there and then put this part of the sentiment on the inside if you wanted to. I liked them paired together on the front. So I've treated with my anti-static tool. I am stamping down in our Brilliant White pigment ink, and then I am going to put on some white detail embossing powder and heat set that. So as far as life goes, I can't believe summer is almost over. Like, we are just in the last few weeks before Peanut goes back to school, which is crazy. I cannot believe how fast the summer has gone by. But I'm not ready to give it up without a fight. Like, we're still going to be doing the things that we enjoy during summertime, at least for a little while longer. So I'm actually hoping after I do this voiceover to go get Jelly Bean from daycare and get into the pool. We had some really, it was I don't know. It was just really weird weather for July. Like the one day the high was like 68 and we were like down into the 50s. It was bizarre. But so we haven't really had good swimming weather. So this time we're back up into I think the 80s at least. And so we are going to try and get into the pool. Sundays is a little bit challenging to get into the pool because she already has swim lessons, which can you even believe that she's graduated again into the next swim class? She's doing so well. And that's honestly like, that's completely attributed to my husband and his commitment to take her to swim class. Because when my mom got sick, and there was so much going on with appointments and, juggling all of those things, her care and meals for them and everything else. I was like, dude, I cannot keep like adding things to my plate, and I think that we should take a break from swim. And he was like, I don't think we should take a break from swim, so I will take her. And he has been the person who has taken her, for the last 6 or 8 months. And so how well she is doing is completely due to him and his commitment. So both of my kids are very lucky to have a involved hands-on dad, and he's a wonderful one. So I made my colored pencils glittery. They do exist in real life. I know because I've bought them for my own children, but also even if they didn't, I would still do it. I use Stardust stickles, and I really just think it makes them just like extra and over the top. I love them so much. I wish that there was like better quality glitter pencils because I would use them. So I added on some rhinestones next to it. And then here along the sides, like the areas that are the lightest, I'm just letting kind of my white gel pen skim over that. I'm not doing a lot of pressure. I'm letting it skip if it wants to, just to add in those highlights. So now we're moving on to the next card, but still the same technique. So here I'm going to show you how to do it with grays. I want my paint tubes to look white. And remember, when we're adding shadows, we're adding it where 2 points meet and where one object lays on top of the other. So horizontally, I've added shadows where the cap will sit and where the label will sit. After that, we're back to the same vertical lines we've been doing. So where the lines are embossed, I'm following those down, and then I'm adding 2 lines to the outside edge. Again, I'm going to go in with my mid-tone. I'm going to go right over the top of those lines, and then just extend them out just a little bit. Now, for this one, I did choose to extend them out, like add some extra shading underneath the label and from the bottom of the tube towards the top. You don't have to do that, but if you're getting really comfortable with practicing this technique, you can kind of start to branch out and add a little bit more shading. So here, this is my lightest color, but because my object is white, I still want to make sure that I am leaving white. So for the cap, again, there's like 3 parts to the cap. And so I'm just adding those horizontal lines where the die dips in to indicate the next level of the cap. And then I just went over them with my lightest color. And for the very top portion with the embossed, I extended them up. So for the alcohol markers, I am using warm grays. If you don't like cool grays, you can use warm grays for the paint tubes as well. But I wanted there to be a contrast because I have very neutral elements in this card, and I wanted them to pop. I didn't want them to blend in with each other. So I chose to use warm grays for this one and cool grays for the other one. This one, again, along that barrel, we're doing that same technique. For the top portion, I am extending it just slightly so that it gives the appearance that it like dips down to create that bottleneck. And even for these pencil sharpening areas, I'm using the same technique. Where it dips in, I'm drawing those lines up and I'm adding just a line of shading on either side. So even though that this is a different shape and it is a different item, I guess is the best way to describe it, I still use that same technique. And you can see that now combining them, we're getting lots of really, really good dimension here. For the other tips, I'm not using a ton of time. I'm just blending them out so that they'll match, because I have, I like when my pictures are matchy-matchy. So if I wasn't photographing this with the other picture, I probably wouldn't even have spent the time for the 3 colors. I probably would have only done 2 because I know I'm going to put glitter on it. But if you're not, the 3 color blend is still a good one. For the labels, I'm going to color it as if it has a center highlight. And so my darkest shadows are going to go to the left and the right. This is matching up and mirroring that same shadow that we put on the paint tube, so that when we adhere the label on there, everything is going to match. The edges will be darker, the middles will be lighter. And here I'm just showing you this one so that you can see the color combination that I used. Her swim lessons were moving up. So we had that on Sunday. And so by the time we get home and do lunch and get a nappy in, it can be challenging to get into the pool on Sundays. So even though it is a quote unquote work day, I'm hoping to snag her just a smidge earlier than usual so that I can get her into the pool. For tonight, my peanut butter, my oldest, is actually at his dad's house, so I cannot get him into the pool, but he will be home tomorrow morning. So hopefully we'll be able to get in some more pool time before school starts. And now the school, like all the school sales are on. His school very generously offers a program where you can purchase your school supplies and like from the school, and they'll box them all together. And then all you have to do is go in and pick them up. And since I wasn't sure what was going to be going on with Mom at the time, I just went ahead and bought it. And I am so glad that I did, because now I don't have that stress. But I do have the stress of figuring out what clothes fit my kids and, what I need to get there. So that is the game plan coming up with him tomorrow when he gets home. I need him to try on his jeans and see if they still fit, if we're rocking floods, what we got going on here. And then her summer session is going to be coming to an end. So we will decide whether or not we're going to continue on that with fall. Back to the card. So here, once I put the lid on, I did add just an extra little horizontal line of shading, just because it needed it. It needed that little extra bit of shading for everything to kind of make sense. So I did one line of my dark and I skipped the midtone and did one line of my light, and that blended it out enough. I was really happy with the way that these came out. I know that they're intended to be swatches, but I don't care. I think that they are great to use to create cards with. So I have a feeling, because I don't even swatch anything. Guys, I'm terrible. I don't swatch anything. So I'll just be using them as regular dies. So here, in order to get around the crafty hole punch situation, I am just positioning them as if like they were just scattered on a desk. And so they're laying kind of over top of each other and at all different angles. And I think that this would be a super fun card to send to another artist, another card maker or crafter. I think that they would totally get it. Well, most of us would. Some of us are tidy, but I am not. So the sentiment that I went for with this one was crafty professional procrastinator, and that is totally accurate in my situation. So, I think these are so much fun. We are going to do one more technique. Two. We're going to I'm going to show you how to fill up the card without really having to do any extra work. And so here I have an extra tip from a colored pencil that I cut, and I'm going to use that as well as these cutoffs. So I'm using my shears. That seems to be honestly the easiest way to like trim these down. So I have these extra pieces that are coming off, and some of them I'm not going to be able to use, but some of them are big enough that I can reuse them. And so I'm going to use these to fill in the corners to help make the card look fuller without me having to do anything extra. Well, almost nothing extra. I have to color this little colored pencil tip. That's pretty much all the extra that I will be doing. So don't like just when you're trimming them down, don't cast off all of your little pieces, because sometimes they can be super useful to help fill out a design. So then the other thing that we're going to do, which if you have watched my channel before, this is something that you've seen me do time and time again, and that is a cast shadow. A cast shadow gives such dimension without really a ton of effort. Once you get comfortable doing them, they really are super simple, but I understand how viewing them initially, they might seem a little bit overwhelming. But basically, you're just going to pick a light source. I usually pick the top right because that's what I was taught in high school. And so that's the one that I've always stuck with. And if your light source is in the top right, then that means your shadows are in the bottom left. And so I'm going to take my mid-tone and my lightest color, and I am going to put a line of color down. So underneath them, that's what I mean by down. So whatever is underneath them, and to the left. So if there is a object that you can see the left-hand side of it, then I'm going to put a shadow there. If there is an object where you can see the bottom of it, I'm going to put a shadow there. And then once I have gone in and done the mid-tone, then I'm going to blend it out with my lighter color. If you're just getting comfortable with this, start with your lighter color first. And then if it doesn't turn out the way that you like it, you can always just turn it into a full outline, and then it'll look more intentional. Everything is fixable. So don't let that limit to what you're willing to try for yourself. So yeah, so her dance, she is loving, and the summer session is coming to an end. So then there is a little bit of a break before we do fall. So Wednesday, I will have to see about the pricing. They have like a list, but I'm a little bit confused by it because it's like first class, second class, third class. I don't know what any of that means because I'm new to this. My husband told me, he's like, you're fitting in perfectly with the dance moms because you're already making friends, which I mean, I was just chatting with the one girl for our first session because both of us were there like trying it out for the first time. I don't know. My dad always joked that my mom could make friends in a grocery store, and I probably do follow after that. I have no issue striking up a conversation with somebody. So that's just me, I guess. So here, once that is on, I'm going to do those same white highlights that we talked about. The only ones that I added in were along the cap for the paint, and then along the labels and the like the side of the alcohol marker. This just starts to give them a little bit of highlight and a little bit of character. You can see how much that cast shadow adds. They really jump off the page. And then of course, I can't stop myself. I'm going to add the glitter. So I added the glitter to the alcohol markers as well as the colored pencil tips. And then because there can never be enough shimmer, shine elements that are added that make it look more interesting, I'm also going to bring in the good old glossy accents, and I am going to use that on the labels of the paint tubes because they shouldn't be left out just because they don't have colorful tips. They have colorful labels, and we're going to make them shine. So then after that, I did the same thing that I did with the other ones. I added those rhinestones. I added a lot more to this one than the other one. But I'm really happy with the way that both of them turned out. I hope this inspires you to give this technique of coloring a try. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.